Welcome everybody to Spa-Francorchamps for the latest heat, as they are called, for the Ligier European Series. We're back to a more standard format after that one-off race that happened on the Sunday of Le Mans test weekend. Two 3-hour sessions for the main 24-hour cars were separated or sandwiched between those two sessions. Was this one-off race, a great draw for those that are attracted to the Ligier European Series events, either for the continuation of this season or on into future years as well. Congratulations then to LR Motorsport and particularly Simone Riccitelli, a race winner after an hour by just 0.296 of a second on that Le Mans special from August Turbo. And they are very much glued together in the championship. More on that in just a second. So that was the order of things in JS2 R. In JS P4, the prototype style cars, Loire Valley Racing and Roman Bachler victorious after actually a bit of a result that had to be thrashed out, because they finished, the 22 Loire Valley Racing car finished ahead on the road of ANS Motorsport. That was briefly reversed, but then investigated again, and the original result still stood. So Roman Bachler certainly somebody to look out for in the championship as well, on 75 points, but trailing both Eco Segre and Max Dodds, who share a car on 104 points. But, Graham, this is back to the more standard setup in the weekend, although there is a difference in that we're going to get a Saturday Ligier race and a Sunday Ligier race at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So spread across 2 days, a bit of rejigging maybe of people's calendars in order to do that. Yep. Welcome, Graham Goodwin, by the way, to the Ligier European Series. In fact, we've been on duty all day, but this is considered a separate broadcast. So hello, Graham.
Well, I think hello, you too, Johnny. Yeah, I think we're grateful for that. We had a bit of an overnight dash to get here today, and it was good news to see that we've got a slightly later start on Saturday morning here. But it's
done especially for that reason, I think.
Almost certainly.
Fit around us.
Yeah, they're very accommodating, the Ligier European Series. Before we move on, by the way, from that race at Le Mans, we'll say this. Was there for test day. Remarkably clean race. Great racing on track. And that, by the way, is what it's all about in terms of the experience that the teams and the drivers are looking for. It's another great advert for the Ligier European Series for anybody aspiring to climb up the ladder. Beyond that, it's the Road to Le Mans, of course, and then beyond that, European Le Mans Series and the Le Mans 24 Hours itself. So, yes, if you're looking, whether or not you've got the resource to fund it, or whether or not you're looking as a young pro to find somewhere to show your talents, great place to be. And there are few race organisers that are more enthusiastic and more accommodating than the Ligier European Series, and I'm sure we're going to see another fabulous hour of racing here. It's been a really good season so far. We've seen some close battles in both classes. We've seen teams learning, sometimes by a couple of errors, sometimes just showing what the capabilities of the drivers, the cars, the combinations can be. And strap yourselves in, because it could be quite the 60 minutes. Seeing the cars just waiting to be released onto track. So it gives us an opportunity to talk about all sorts of things to do with this series. Rain has gone away, Johnny. Beginning to see a little bit of sunshine peeping through the clouds at various points of this circuit. I'm delighted to see that we've got numbers of fans here, despite the inclement weather of this morning. And I'm sure that will attract more here this afternoon. Looking forward to the two races we've got here. Looking forward as well to the next stop on the calendar, which we'll see for the first time in its history, the Ligier European Series coming to the UK and the Silverstone circuit, as will the Le Mans Cup. Porsche leading car is ready to take to the track. Might just be a bit of circuit clean-up after the ELMS qualifying sessions. And then we can start getting underway for some race action for the first time this weekend. Qualifying is done, and away we go.
So a grid has already been set for this race, and indeed tomorrow morning's. And if you're here as a two-driver lineup, each driver gets an opportunity to qualify the car, and they then start the race for whichever qualifying session they've been in. If you're a single driver, that's not something you need to worry about necessarily, and just entirely focus on doing all of the driving. There is actually a 5-second penalty for those that are run with just the single driver when we get to the pit stop phase, though. 130 seconds for 2 driver lineups, 135 seconds for the mandatory pit stop that has to be served somewhere between 27 minutes and 34 minutes.
The race is going to start behind the safety car. Now that will be to allow the teams, remember these are relatively inexperienced very often, teams and drivers, to get them to understand what the prevailing conditions are, so they'll get a chance to take a look at where there is still standing water. There's 1 or 2 places where we saw that at the end of the LMP2 session for the European Le Mans Series. Caught out some of the more experienced drivers there. Why wouldn't it for the less experienced drivers? But this is behind the safety car will be, I think, beginning this race. So this is the start of the race.
Yes. Yes, so as they triggered the timing loop at the pit lane exit, the start of the race is triggered. And remember that this is exactly 1 hour. Don't have to worry about an extra lap being added at the end. It will run entirely to 60 minutes or the first lap completed once the clock reaches 0. And Romain Bochler, who...
Oh, trouble here.
Oh dear, right, okay. So this is the
66. Is the 88?
Or 66.
It's the that's the 88. It's the
Hamda Al-Qubaisi car, which appears to have stopped. And now a bit of confusion. Are the others permitted to overtake or not? Well, if a car's not going anywhere, then all of a sudden the no overtaking rule is ignored. And has there actually been contact to account for another car?
He's trying to back up away from it. I think that confused people. If you've got no vision ahead of it, you're going to react to what the car ahead of you does. But if that car stops dead, and now the 88 car rejoins, so that is good news.
And crucially, perhaps for Hamda Al-Qubaisi, she didn't fall all the way to the back of the field. But had this been a formation lap, she might have been allowed to go back to her rightful starting position. But we're actually started the race at this point, and I don't think that rule stands anymore.
That's really, really bad luck for the car that was stuck behind her. I think that's the 44 car of Andre Vieira was stuck behind her, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a motorsport car. I'll double check that. One other change, by the way, and I think you'll see it with branding on the car, Loire Valley Racing, who set the pole position time here, hands of Romain Bochler. The 22 car in JS P4. That car now operating out, it's still the entry for Loire Valley Racing, but that car also being handled by Trajectus Motorsport. That is Benoit Treluet's new squad. And they therefore prepare the cars that sit first and second on this grid.
So Hamda Al-Qubaisi's car is going to drop down the order as expected, but I'm looking for the other car that is going to do the same.
I think it was the 44 car.
It's not one that's immediately being shown as dropping, so I think you're right that it's one towards the back of the field. Now, Andre Vieira was due to start as the final car anyway, but Al-Qubaisi still the only name to be dropping to the foot of our timing screen. Remember, this is the first completed lap in the race. So the time is already ticking by. We're slightly behind schedule as it is, so a chance to catch up some of that time. Romain Bochler, by the way, starting from pole position. He's actually on a hat-trick at the moment, having won the second race at Le Castellet. He won in Le Mans, so if he can win again this weekend, that's 3 on the bounce. Also, another race victory came in the second race at Barcelona. The problem is when he's not winning, he's not scoring any points at all, because there was a non-finish at Le Castellet and there was a big fat 0 in the first race at Barcelona, and that's why it's so costly. He trails by 29 points.
As is so often the case, consistency is the key. It was the 44 car, and in fact the 17 JS2 R is between those 2 cars at the tail of the field. Into the pits comes the number 29 car.
There was also a drama for Matteo Pianazzola, who spun, I think, on the start-finish straight. May have got going again now, but Pianazzola's going to lose ground as well.
There he is, and he hit the wall. He has hit the wall.
Quite heavily. So that was all on his own, just trying to generate heat in the tyres, I think.
Maybe still a little bit of moisture in the track.
Yeah.
Now, I do wonder about the 29 car. Is that a tyre change? Did they start with wets? And have they realised that's the wrong move? This could be quite an interesting aspect to this. There are tyre changes going on for that car. And I think, is that one tyre? They're putting slicks on the car. 16 is in as... I think this is Pegasus Racing making the call that it's ready for slicks and doing it now.
Yeah.
Because they will be allowed, of course, to catch the train. And if they're the only team that's done it, this could be quite the move from Pegasus Racing. They'll lose track time here, but if they can release those cars quickly, there is the damaged nose of the number 60 car. They will be allowed to join the back of this train.
Matteo Pianizzola's only just got going. I was peering through our commentary box window to see him sitting broadside and needing potentially some help, but I did think he got the engine running of his own accord. That's the beauty of such a long lap around here at Spa-Francorchamps, though. You're unlikely to lose a lap by this tyre change. Yes, you'll lose road position, as Pianizzola did finally get going again. The intervention vehicle had actually passed him on the track by this point.
So 60 is clear,
yeah.
And is going round as quickly as he can to rejoin. Where is... But there's a red light at pit exit. That's going to cost them a lap.
Well, it depends how long it's displayed for, but I mean, the safety car is quite a long way away from that point of the circuit. So, yes, waiting for those red lights to go out, and it might be that they can only be extinguished once the safety car and its long line of cars have passed pit lane exit, which will put those two Pegasus Racing cars a lap down. Julien Schell is now shown as not in the pit lane, though.
Yep, he's left the pits. Yuki Tanaka is still in the pits. Now he leaves. So both of the Pegasus Racing cars have rejoined ahead of the safety car,
yes.
Which, by the way, having been told initially we were going to go green, the safety car will now continue.
Yes.
So we're going to have at least one more lap behind the safety car. But the question here, Johnny Palmer, they've got more or less a full lap to make up, is what's going to happen here? If we don't know how many of these cars started on slicks.
True. Yeah. And the other fear that I had about Matteo Pianizzola's car is that it's going to be too heavily damaged to continue. And at the start of the Kemmel Straight, that whole front wing assembly, the splitter, is starting to push back on the front right tyre particularly, and surely is going to start to chew through the rubber. He'll have to pit at the end of this lap, and that's a long way from where he is.
Black and orange flag, car 60, black and orange flag.
Yep, absolutely right. So that will be a forced pit stop, at least for the damaged number 60 car. Bitter goal for them. So slightly untidy start, I'm afraid, to this race. We are racing, albeit behind the safety car, and that's 8 minutes gone. In comes the 33 car. 360 competition. Christopher Preen at the wheel of the British entered squad. Effectively a kind of legacy team from our old 360 racing buddies from Michelin Le Mans Cup and the European Le Mans Series. And is this tyres as well? It is. So they've got the message.
And again, being further up the road, they've got a little bit of time to play with in order to complete this successfully. Preen starting from 13th position in the 360 competition car.
I'm not seeing the 29 and the 16 catching that train, you know.
Not yet, no. Yes, there's
it comes
one
down
thing
to
staying on the lead lap. The other thing is you've got to be right with them at the restart.
You would have to say, your guess would have to be the 60 car was on slicks and that potentially was cause and effect. So what we don't know is how many of the cars in the safety car train have started this race on slick tyres. I think we're about to find out.
Well, the timing screen does not lie. What I don't think is that we have different coloured sidewalls for the tyres in this particular championship, so it's more difficult to work out from distance.
Here comes the war-wounded number 60 car. Now, can that be fixed is the question.
They'll need a new nose section. And
safety car in this lap, safety car in this lap.
So where do we stand? The safety car at the moment coming through the middle sector. 29, the 60, and now the 33 released from the pits, and they are at the moment Eau Rouge Radion.
Yep.
They are half a lap behind.
Well, I've just jumped ahead a little bit. I think that might be down to the tracker for this series is done on predicted times rather than actual GPS, I'm going to suggest. So they're catching up a bit of time here and there when they go through each of the sector splits, but they would have wanted to have been firmly with this long lineup, which is led by Roman Bacla in his Loire Valley Racing number 22 Ligier, leading Mathis Poulet for Trajectus Motorsports, and ANS Motorsports Eco Segre, a joint championship leader with his teammate Maxwell Dodds. We'll see Max later on in this race, once the pit stop has occurred, somewhere between 27 and 34 minutes. And remember, it's either a 130-second stop or a 135-second stop, the longer of the two if you're only running with one driver.
Green flag is ready at start-finish. So field now under control of Roman Berkler in the number 22 car at the head of the field. Safety car has pulled ahead and pitted. And we're about to go green flag racing for the first time this afternoon. 11 minutes behind the safety car. Away we go.
Over the line, and a good getaway, helped of course by the single file nature of a restart, even though we actually didn't have any racing to start with. Big lockup though for Vic Stevens in his Team Virage car, 4th position in the 27, and a chance now again to put some heat in the tyres by zigzagging their way down the hill out of La Source and towards Eau Rouge. But you've got to make sure you're on the racing line as you reach the base of that hill, the daunting run through Eau Rouge and up the hill of Radion.
There is a dry line, but weave off it at your peril if you are on those slick tyres. And there they go, spreading out too wide behind the leader. Mathis Poulet and Eco Segre side by side, but it is Segre that comes through in second place.
Segre with a 29-point advantage over Roman Bacla, so needing to certainly match the race leader stride for stride, at least in the early stages. Good dicing as well between Simone Riccitelli at the head of JS2 R with the La Douce Arbe car of Noé de Cunha. In the pit lane, meanwhile, Alain Meyer for Pegasus Racing.
That's completing Pegasus's 3-car shuffle off of the wet weather rubber they chose, by the look of things, under the safety car. For me, looking at this track, if they're not on slick tyres at this point, they've got a big problem.
You're never going to be as quick as a car that is on slicks, has just been changed to slicks, because nice blue sky and wispy cloud above us on the start-finish straight at Spa-Francorchamps. The rest of the circuit's not that far away from it either. So it's turned into, eventually, a nice Saturday afternoon. And Roman Bacla is in a rich vein of form in this segment of the championship, having won the previous 2 races, and wants to try and gather some of that lost ground back again after the 2 DNFs. Well, 1 DNF and 1 outside of the top 10 finish at the start of the year. But Bacla getting to grips now with the JS P4, being prepared by Loire Valley Racing. Well, there's been a little bit of adjustment in that that car number 22 has been taken into the Trajectus Motorsport fold this weekend, but still entered as Loire Valley Racing, and Roman Bacla flying the flag from that part of France.
So Roman Bacla completes that lap at 2:28.445. Julian Shelby, no on slicks, 2:36 for that car. Now this could be quite interesting. It's a big difference in lap time. I'm guessing that lead group are all on wet weather rubber.
Yeah, so we need to keep tabs on the pace of the Pegasus Racing cars and whether they're able to lap at a much higher rate, lower lap time, and to see whether that crucial decision at the start was worth doing. Yes, you lose ground initially, but the amount that you stand to gain partway through this race could be absolutely massive.
Well, this is where the safety car potentially helps anybody that started on wet weather rubber. You burn time. We are 30 minutes from the pit stop window opening.
Yeah.
Side by side here. Oh, big wiggle.
And straight lining again, the Radion Courase again, because both in the Michelin Le Mans Cup qualifying sessions earlier today and in the ELMS quali sessions, we had cars doing that, and thankfully not coming to harm. But if you start to repeat that too often in the race, then you will start to get a warning flag for track limits. Really sideways, trying to slow the number 1 Virage car down for Le Com a few seconds ago. That was Dario Cabanelas. He had a big off in qualifying earlier today and went off spearing into the tyres, and that meant that quite a bit of the tyre wall that he hit needed to be repaired. And in fact, there's going to be an overtake there as Pietro Ferri gets ahead of Cabanelas for 6th place in JS P4.
45 minutes remaining. Keeping an eye on the relative pace here. At the moment, the lead group's still much quicker than Julien Schell. But Schell, last time around, found 4 seconds, 2:36 to 2:32, but still 4 seconds off the lead group's pace.
So LR Motorsports, Simone Riccitelli arriving here in Belgium as the championship leader by a single point. Riccitelli is a solo racer in car number 7 from Luca Riccitelli Motorsports prepared car.
Incident involving cars 18 Papin and 57 Turbo under review, causing a collision. That is our 4th and 5th place cars in JS2 R. 2:24 for the lead group now. Keep an eye on just exactly where the pace is from Julien Schell.
Jacques Nicolet and Andre Vieira going door handle to door handle into the bus stop chicane at the end of this lap as well. So that is for 8th and 9th in JSP4. They're a bit further away, and there's been a big incident now for Eco Segre, who is a key man in the championship. That looks like it's at the top of Radion.
It does.
From the grandstand view, and front right of that car heavily damaged. It's going to go no further. And all of a sudden, this is a hinge point in the season for Eco Segre and his teammate Max Dodds. Yeah, it's an off to driver's left. So did he lose it at Eau Rouge?
He lost it before the compression, didn't he? Tried to gather it up, and there was just no grip available offline. And a traditional Eau Rouge Radion off, I'm afraid, there.
Yeah, done a huge, and we're going to go safety car, which is not a massive surprise in truth, because both corners, left side corners of that car, heavily damaged. And Roman Buckler, who leads the race, all of a sudden his championship is massively revived because it's going to be a non-finish today. Now, thankfully for the guys that are in the number 6 car, we're not racing twice today. They do have overnight to potentially fix that for tomorrow morning's race.
There is some damage to the banding on the tyre wall. It doesn't look too serious, but there is obviously going to be an intervention now with the safety car. I'm going to revise what I think was happening there. Julien Schell has just gone through at a 2:29. I think the lead group started on slicks. And I think what happened was that Pegasus decided to start on wet tyres and then change their mind. I think that's what's gone on there.
Okay.
Because the improvement in lap time...
Listen to the applause.
That's what matters.
As Eco gets out, and the medical car very, very quickly on the scene.
Hint of a limp there, I think.
He's shocked by it, clearly.
Well,
and
of course he is.
That's only going to now settle in once the adrenaline wears off. But huge incident, and it's only when the car slows that dramatically that all of a sudden the reality of how fast you're going through Eau Rouge and Radion suddenly
it lost the rear end, and when it bit, it snapped away to the left-hand side, and from there, honestly, it's lap of the god stuff, and there was not enough grip on the wet offline to help him to get the car back under control, and it slithered. Horrible moments for him. That must have felt like an eternity, but in reality it was a second or two, and into the wall and out of this race. He's out of the car. He'll go to the medical centre, as every driver always does after any impact like that. But hopefully a little bit of maybe winded, maybe a bit shaken up, but no further damage, we hope. We'll keep you posted on that. But second appearance of the safety car in this race. And that is the damage to the front end of the number 6 car.
It's been an excellent season to this point, with 5 podiums, 2 wins along the way for Eco and Max. Eco Segre, Max Dodds, both in that car. So they won in Barcelona once, they won once in Le Castellet, and every other result, when they're not winning, they're finishing second. So consistent run is very, very evident. Unfortunately, this is the first race where they will not score points. And assuming Eco is fit to race tomorrow, let's hope that the car can be fixed in time for the 7th race of the season. This is all part of Heat 4 of the year. And a heat generally includes 2 races, with the exception of Le Mans in June. So Heat 4 Spa, Heat 5, a first ever visit to the UK and the Silverstone circuit. And Heat 6 will be 2 races in Portimao to round out the season and to crown both JS P4 and JS2 R champions. Well, and in actual fact, in both the drivers and the team's perspective, but there's also Pro-Am and Am championships to be sorted as well. So many trophies up for grabs.
We're going to get, by the look of things, I think we're going to get the safety car taking this race into the pit stop window, which is 6.5 minutes away now. So within the next 2 laps.
And the safety car, by the way, does not close the pit lane like it might do in the European Le Mans Series. You can still access that to make your stop. You've got 7 minutes in order to do it. But the 7-minute window isn't adjusted because we're on a longer circuit this weekend. It's still 7 minutes, so you might only get 2 opportunities to get in there and into a tight pit lane. Again, I'm not entirely sure where. Well, all the pit stops have been done in the endurance pits, haven't they? So to this point, so yes, it's even more difficult, you might argue, than the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the ELMS, who will pit in the Grand Prix pit lane this weekend.
Yeah, we should make that very clear. Spa-Francorchamps can be confusing format for all of us, including us here in the TV booth, and our rather late arrival this weekend doesn't help that matter. Ligier's just using the lower pits, the old endurance pits, and their pits in is immediately after La Source, and they're not running through the whole double pit lane.
Yeah, so not like a Spa 24-hour weekend. There is an opportunity to join the pit lane, to enter the pit lane after La Source, just like there's a chance to exit the Grand Prix pit lane after La Source as well. But there's never a scenario where both pit lanes, both independent pit lanes, are being used in the same session, because that would be ridiculous. And the potential for a clash in the middle is fairly significant. Now, an indication of how much wet weather we've been having this morning, and it's only this morning. Quite a lot of that water that's accumulated in the top of the tyre wall has been set free. And 2 vans from the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, with several staff members turning up just to see what needs to be done in respect to making that tyre wall safe again. So I'd echo your thoughts that we're likely to still be under safety car by the point we get 27 minutes into this race. Well, far too hot into Le Mans in an effort to catch the safety car train, perhaps, for Alain Meyer. And now a stopped car at Curve Paul Frere.
Is that the 44? I think that's the 44.
It's difficult to tell because of the sunshine on the top of that car, but it might be 44 ASM Motorsport and Andre Vieira. It is a car It's a car that's into the 3rd sector, but unfortunately every car is in the 3rd sector with the exception of one right now.
The safety car train just coming through now to complete what is lap 7. And with work underway, of course, we're going to go around for one more lap at the very least. Here they come. I'll tell you, a safety car lap is 4 minutes and 46 seconds, and we're under that away from the pit stop window. So pit stop, there will be available pit stops for these cars next time around. And what happened here? What was that all about?
So there was a clash earlier for Andre Vieira. Was that again versus Jacques Nicolet? Because they'd already been having a nibble with each other.
Well, at least parked relatively close to intervention. He's found fire in the belly and away he goes again.
Well, that's good news. And away then goes car 44, having dropped to 21st overall and 12th in JS P4. But Andre Vieira is back on the move. Vieira in the 44 car will be doing all of this race as a solo driver. He's the Portuguese, and as I say, having a good battle with Jacques Nicolet, also a solo driver. There aren't that many of them in JS P4. We've got 1, 2, 3 cars that will have no driver change, and therefore a slightly extended pit stop, which is time from pit in to pit out, and it'll be 135 seconds for one driver. Two drivers, you managed to get a 5-second advantage. Now Vieira's not well. Also, he wasn't trying to get in the pits there because we're not using those pits for the Ligier European Series. That's in an effort to just get the car out of the way, I think. He's parked it up the right side, or the right-hand side of that bollard. Unless he was trying to get into the pit lane. I think he just sensed the car wasn't going to make the hill.
It's either that or he's just made a mistake under pressure. It's possible.
Yeah. Maybe
another, what is it, French? Control-Alt-Supprimer, I believe. It's not Control-Alt-Delete. It's a French car.
Indeed, it is. There is a marshal there with a yellow flag saying, no, not here, not this pit lane. You need to go in later on, after La Source. But they've all now realised that the car is stopped because of a mechanical drama rather than wanting to get into pit lane. Do you need a tow, is the question. And Andre Vieira might be able to provide an answer. He genuinely might not know what the problem is.
Yeah. It looked like a very late decision to pull right, didn't it?
Yeah.
Now, bear in mind, to get into pit lane, he's got the length of the pit straight, so he's got a further problem by the look of things, which unfortunately, with apologies, is making the start of this race a little bit messy. We are just a minute away from the opening of the pit stop window, and I can tell you that the safety car train is about to clear sector 2.
So this time by, you will be allowed to pit.
You absolutely will.
And with the lap times being 4 and in some cases 5 minutes, do you really want to risk leaving it another lap?
Well, the problem is we've now got a further incident to be cleared. So you can see, as you can see, the convoy is leaving Radion and will be going back to their holding positions now. But now we've got the 44 car to be dealt with.
But that rather suggests that the tyre wall is rigid again. And now another intervention vehicle has been found.
Happily, they've got plenty.
Yeah, yes, indeed. It helps this being such a long circuit, and it also helps that you've got intervention vehicles on the inside of the circuit, on the outside of the circuit. There's a flatbed around the next corner as well.
Action which is too wide on the camel straight there.
Very good. Nice little overtake through the kink. And getting the slipstream is the second of these Mercedes vans. Oh, nerfed the Manitou out of the way there.
Dear me.
Almost into the wall.
Luckily,
dreadful behaviour.
Four-wheel steering managed to recover it.
We're scrabbling around for any sort of racing we can bring to you at the moment, but I think this is going to be an intense run to the line now, or just after the line, when everybody could effectively pit at the same time. And those standing in the endurance pits will want to be leaping up onto a pit wall or into a garage, because there's going to be a lot of company in the next few moments. The safety car is in this lap, but the pit lane is open on this lap.
Wow, now that's a bit of a game changer.
That does give another option potentially of leaving it one more lap.
But if you're at the front of the train, you've got a clear track ahead of you.
Yes.
You don't pit.
No, because you're just going to waste time.
You're going to waste time on pit lane, so you might just as well go around, let that pit stop melee clear if that's what they're going to get, and try and use the wide open spaces ahead of you. Coming down now to the bus stop. And the field under control again of Romain Berkler, with Mathis Poulet, Vic Stevens, Ruben Hage, Pietro Ferri and Dario Cabaneas in the JS P4 queue. Then the 7th place car is our leader, Simone Recchitelli in JS2 R, Arnaud de Cuna and Sidney Coudet, Lucas Papin, and we're about to go green flag racing. But how many of them are going to get to turn 2, and how many of them are going to turn right into pit lane?
And there's an element of confusion potentially as well, because can you get the car over to the right-hand side if you are intending to pit? Some may want to, and if you are the car in behind, you might want to stay out. Well, the two out front stay out. Vic Stevens says no, I'll be the first on pit road, thank you very much. And there is a clear road, therefore, ahead of Vic. Here's the confusion I was talking about, though. One or two might want to stay out, and they're getting trapped by cars that are closing in to pit lane, and one briefly stalled from the JS2R.
Well, the question is, did he actually want to pit, or did he find himself with no option, really?
Yeah.
Now we've got cars in numbers, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars have opted to stay out. It is 22, Loire Valley Racing from Romain Berkler, Mathis Poulet, Ruben Hage, the 12 ASM car, LR Motorsports, Pietro Ferri, and Hamder Al-Kabaisi in the number 88 car, the car that was in trouble at the very start of this race. The Team Veroche car comes through in 5th. Leading JS2R is Martin Tabaré. He cycles through to the lead with pretty much all the rest of the JS2Rs, with the exception of the what had been the last place car, the Petro Gold car of Miguel Angel Romero. So what happened here?
Oh, a lose for 84, yeah, from JS2R.
Well, that's the lead in JS2R at the moment, the only 2 cars on track.
So Miguel Angel Romero hit the door rather open for the Petra Gold car to overtake a spinning Martin Tabaré.
Side by side here, that's
for the lead of the race.
That was the 3 car. No, that was the 3 car. That's
the
Pietro
third,
Ferri.
fourth, therefore, yeah.
It is Ruben Hage and Pietro Ferri.
But Berkler and Poulet have thought about going side by side for the majority of this first racing lap. And a great thing to witness, both for the lead and for 3rd and 4th places. Obviously, none of these cars deciding to sit in the pit lane like these cars are doing. And they're sitting there for either 2 minutes and 10 seconds or 2 minutes and 15 seconds, depending on whether it's 2 or 1 driver lineup. Slightly longer pit stop by 5 seconds if you're entering as a solo racer. So we've got 3 of those in JS P4. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars with just the single driver in JS2R.
Romain Berkler crosses the line, starts his lap 10, a second clear of Mathis Poulet. Ruben Hage maintains 3rd place from Pietro Ferri.
Not anymore. Ferri to the outside, and Hage is going to pit, in fact, but Ferri had got the position around the outside of La Source, and he's going to stay out again. So the top 2 did pit, Berkler and Poulet. Pietro Ferri says, I can do 1 more lap before the time is up. I think that is about right. Might be a little bit nip and tuck, because remember, it's not just completing the lap. You've got to do the lap and then go around La Source and then pit before 34 minutes are finished in the race. That's going to be tight. We'll keep our eyes peeled for Pietro Ferri and when he enters pit lane. But everybody who did pit for the first time of asking, as the safety car came in, are now flooding out of the pits, including that number 41 JS2R car, which has gone a little too hot into Le Mans. Tristan Clay for VSF Sports.
Just checking pit stop times. Think everybody's clear that they've all served the time they needed to do on pit lane. Just have to check the difference between the 135 and 135 second cars, but nobody under 130 seconds.
So the initial news is good, and by the way, we can ignore the 1 minute 47 that is next to Julien Schell's time, because
that was a tyre change.
That was a time done for a tyre change outside of the pit window.
Absolutely.
So he's now in for his actual pit stop, the mandatory pit stop. 27 minutes to go. When we get to a point of 26 minutes to go, Pietro Ferri has to be in the pit lane. And I think this is going to be quite tight now for Pietro, for LR Motorsport.
Trouble there for Nodekuna in the number 50. JS2R running wide and dropping all the way down this field, I think is in real trouble here.
It'll be Michael Bulzachelli, by the way, to take over from Pietro Ferri in the number 3 race-leading LR Motorsport car. But he's only got 30 seconds to get to the end of this lap and then to get into pit lane, and that is going to be the crucial bit of it. 19 seconds. He's going to run out of time, I think, unfortunately, and there will be a penalty to serve.
He's got to clear the pit in line, hasn't he?
Exactly, which is after the end of this lap.
And it is 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time up. I'm afraid there is going to be. You're absolutely right. There is going to be a penalty to be served here, and it won't be a small one.
So he will still pit, I'm sure, and hand over to Michael Bulzachelli. And now he's reached the pit lane, but about 10 seconds too late. Yeah. The pit stop will happen. They'll change the driver, but we will eventually, I'm sure, get a message on the screen to say it'll be reviewed, checked, and they will drop down the order. But they could still have an impact on who wins this race, because the car's still going to be a live thing.
Behind, by the way, Vincent Boutellier is ahead of Romain Berkler. And that came courtesy of 4 seconds quicker on pit lane for the Trajectories Motorsport car, the number 19, from the 22. And that's all to do with the fact that Romain Berkler, of course, is a solo driver.
Yes. So automatically loses 5 seconds compared to the 2 driver lineups.
So it's going to be about his pace on track now, and he's right there, what, 1.3 seconds back from Boutillier. They will come through to lead this race, either with or without a looming penalty for the current posted race leader, Pietro Ferri, who has pitted but outside the defined pit stop window by just, what, 10-12 seconds. This is the battle.
Made short work of it there, did he not?
That's it. 22 is through.
Yeah.
And gone.
So Berkler around the outside of Boutillier and now into a decent lead, which is not called as the race leader at this point because Pietro Ferri entered the pit lane as the car that had covered the most distance. Is that about to change though? Because, well, bear in mind, he's up against the Ferri/Bulza-Kelly combination. 2-driver lineup, so they can spend 5 fewer seconds in pit lane, but they pitted outside of the pit window, we reckon.
So they're coming down now towards, there is the number 3 car rolling, and is out of pit lane now, but loses the lead on track even before we get to any looming penalty, and in fact he's down to 4th place.
Yeah. So going to be swallowed up by Berkler and by Boutillier, 1st and 2nd. Vic Stevens up to 3rd position now.
And pushing hard.
Yes.
And remember, Vic Stevens pitted a lap earlier. Tyres will be far more up to temperature.
And actually, that shouldn't be Vic Stevens anymore. It should be Jude Peters, his teammate, but the driver ID's not been switched. But Vic is not one of the solo racers. Down the inside, 57, a little bit too hot, and that meant that Cindy Goudet couldn't turn in, although she was having her own moment.
She was.
In the purple car.
Simone Riccitelli, by the way, is in a battle with Steve Palette for the lead in JS2R and 8th place overall.
So that was August Turbo and Cindy Goudet.
Still battling away.
The all-black turbo car. Turbo by name and not necessarily by equipment in the machine, by the way.
Yep, V6 Ford engines in all of these cars, in fact, different states of tune for the JS P4 from the JS2Rs. But it's been, in the life of these cars, some subtle but telling development, listening to the customers, finding out basically where they felt that the changes could be made, evolving both cars, the JS2R and the JS P4, both been very successful platforms for the sales of Ligier. The JS2Rs, not just here, of course, in the Ligier European Series, been very successful JS Cup France, and seeing these cars in slightly different trim in other international endurance races. Johnny, you commentate on the 24H series. Not unusual to see the odd Ligier there. We had a pair of them in a WEC supporting Italian GT4 race not so long ago. Fastest lap of the race to Romain Berkler. It's a 2:23.312.
Good to see Stephen Palette returning to the Ligier European Series. He's never done a kind of standard round outside of a guest role at the 24 Hours of Le Mans supporting race or the Le Mans Test Day supporting race. So Stephen Palette with great ACO heritage in other championships in the ladder. But Stephen is battling them for the race lead in JS2R.
Cindy Goudet, by the way, under investigation off track with lasting advantage, and that will be the incident at the incident really at the bus stop. 2-3 wide as a group of JS2Rs and JS P4s come roaring past us with positional changes aplenty on the cards here. Berkler leads 2.8 seconds and extending that lead from Boutillier. Jude Peters is now posted as the driver for the Team Virage number 27. He's under a second back to the second place man.
Excellent door-handle action between Stephen Palette and Simone Riccitelli down the hill towards Eau Rouge, and that was a question of who was going to give up first, because it needs to be single file through there. Palette took the lead from our championship leader, Simone Riccitelli. Remember, Riccitelli leading by just a point over August Turbo, but Palette's not in the championship shake-up because this is his first race of the season. It's not going to stop him winning the race, of course, for VSF Sports.
Team manager, is he not, at VSF? And
yeah,
I think basically this is one of those things where you can expect in races to come, the boss basically say, look, I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
But excellent lap from Steve Palette to get by the so far dominant Simone Riccitelli. August Turbo 3 seconds back from that group, with Cindy Goudet having dropped back from the number 57 car. That's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 18, 7, 57 and 68. But in the lead of this race, Roman Berkler is beginning to stretch his legs. Fastest lap of the race last time around, a 2:23.312, and that was a good second and a half quicker than his most immediate pursuer.
And now Dario Cabanillas being pursued by, actually that's the 16 car, isn't it? So is it the 58 ahead of him?
It's
yes.
Nicolai
9th and 10th.
Yep.
David Cosenel, who took over in the 16 car from Yuki Tanaka. And Cosenel pressurising Jacques Nicolai for a mistake to snatch 9th position.
Keep an eye on this one, Johnny, but I can just report there's another fastest lap of the race, and it's gone to the race leader, Roman Berkler, who's looking to turn the screw here. It's a 2:22.880, just under a second quicker than an improved effort from Vincent Boutellier.
Backler, Boutellier, then Peters, separated by just over 5 seconds. Michael Bulser-Kelly for LR Motorsports, maybe heading in the direction of a penalty because of that car pitting beyond the 34-minute marker in the race. We're now almost 42 minutes completed, running to the hour, as we will do tomorrow morning as well, with a 9 o'clock start for all of these cars, but different starting drivers. So if you're part of a 2-driver lineup, one driver starts on Saturday, the other driver starts on Sunday.
That's the 83 and the 17. Martin Lackamat and Henri Cruz. Enrique Cruz for the battle for 6th place at JS2R, and that has gone the way of the Petro Gold driver, side by side here, and that is the 16 car passing Jacques Nicolai. David Cosenel for Pegasus Racing up into 13th overall and 9th in JS P4. His next target of the battling quartet for the lead group of JS2R.
Stephen Palette looks like he's starting to build a tidy gap now over Simone Riccitelli. It's up to a second, so it means that on sections of the track like the Camel Straight, maybe Riccitelli's just a bit too far back to capitalise from the toe of the green and white VSF car. And it's put Riccitelli within touching distance of August Turbo, although still leaning on about 3.5 seconds. The problem is the drop-off between points that you earn from a win versus second place. So he's losing 7 points with that one overtake, and therefore only outperforming Turbo by 3 now. 18 for second, 15 points for third. And they arrived here in Belgium just a point apart.
Cruz, I think, has fallen behind Martin Lackerman, who I think has leapfrogged him. Is that right? Certainly the Trajectus 83 car is ahead of the 17. Okay, it's happened recently.
Yeah, that will be confirmed through this split,
yep.
And indeed that is the case.
With all of those three bottled up behind the 29 car. Here is the Trajectus number 19. A very gravelly moment indeed, recovers that, but loses a little bit of ground to the chasing 27.
So second place for Vincent Boutellier, but a very small error means he may now be a sitting duck compared to Jude Peters doing the chasing. And whether the 2017 Virage car has been in the hands of Vic Stevens or Jude Peters, it's been going in the right direction of the order of the race. So closing in on an opportunity maybe to squeeze by the Frenchman is the British racer Jude Peters.
Yeah, behind this battling pair is a battle that's just been won for 4th place by the ASM Motorsport number 12 car. Luis Carlos Perez Cabello goes past Michael Bulser-Kelly, in the LR Motorsport number 3 car for 4th. Still, these three battling JS2Rs, and they've all gone by the 29 JS P4 of Christoph Weber. She's let them go, and again, it's the Petrogold car that's now ahead of both of the Trajectus cars again. So
excellent stuff.
Great stuff.
A shout as well to the Alcubasi sisters, who have managed now to recover the situation. Remember when Hamda had stalled the car, or it broke down on the Kemmel Straight during the opening safety car phase? Well, Amna, her sister, has now got that car up to 6th position, helped by the fact that there was a safety car, so therefore the opportunity to overtake was not there. Now just swinging right and left and trying to fend off for further positions is Martin Lacquaman, but he's got very much for company his teammate Martin Teberet, making his debut in the championship.
But back ahead of Henri Cruz. Another fastest lap of the race, meanwhile, for Roman Berkler. He's now 7 seconds ahead, looking dominant here. 3 and the 12 side by side. This is the battle for 4th. Kelly is fighting back here. Jude Peters up to 2nd place.
That confirmed as we clap eyes on the 2 cars running downhill from La Source. It was all done on the exit of the hairpin that starts the racing lap at Spa. So a much tighter line able to be taken by Jude Peters. Vincent Boutellier just did not get the drive off the corner, although he's going to have a second stab at it here through the kink of the Kemmel, and looks to be marginally ahead. Doesn't want to cut across the bows of the Virage car, and Jude Peters surely is going to brake as late as he dares. They're both going to lose it. Peters off into the gravel, and running a little too hot into the corner was Boutellier. Now, did he make the corner? Strictly speaking, you should take the escape road rather than splitting the eye of the needle. But Jude Peters is trapped in the gravel now. He gave it a little bit of right foot, and that's just made the situation worse. It's that age-old fight of neither driver wanting to give up into Les Combes, and one spearing left, the other one spinning like a top on the racetrack, but sadly then into the gravel trap.
Jude Peters will be thinking, if only I'd, and then fill in the options. The place would have been his, but it's easy for us to say it sitting here in the comfort of our booth.
True.
Far rather less easy when you're side by side at 100 plus. Coming into Les Combes.
Safety car is deployed because of the position of Jude Peters' car.
Well, that means Roman Berkler is going to lose that 8-second gap, but there's all sorts of possibilities behind him.
So Boutellier given a second lease of life, but also Michael Bulsa-Kelly, who we've not really been able to assess in terms of speed. He was being caught by Luis Carlos Perez Cabello and the ASM Motorsport car.
That position changed and then changed back.
Okay.
So I think Perez Cabello had a problem at some point, lost the position, but his speed was good.
So that one's up for grabs, which will be the bottom step of the podium now that sadly Jude Peters is going to drop down the order.
And also quick at this stage of the race are Dario Cabanellas and Amna Al-Khabaisi in the 2-team Virage cars, the 88 and the 1. Don't count them out if we get to a green flag restart here in close contention. We know these cars race well when close together. Porsche safety car awaits the field on the exit of La Source. They run down past the endurance pit lane. Here comes the race leader. That 8-second gap that had built up, ashes.
The restart's going to be much less than 10 minutes, though, so Bacler's not going to have a huge amount of time in order to be in defensive mode. And I think on the whole, he is quicker than Vincent Boutellier. That was proven by Boutellier's fight with Jude Peters, which rather allowed Bacler to build that 8-second lead, because the two dicing for second and third, if anything, slowed one another up. And Peters lost a bit of time behind Boutellier, but the unknown entities, how far can this Bulsa-Kelly and Perez Caballo battle get compared to the two ahead?
Well, forget about the gaps, because that will be basically nothing. It's about your trigger foot when we go back to green. It is Roman Berkler leading the race from Vincent Boutellier and Michael Bulsa-Kelly. Luis Carlos Perez Cabello sits in 4th place, with Amna Al-Khabaisi having had the opportunity to close what had been a 10-second plus gap to that pair with this safety car. Dario Cabanillas is right with Al-Khabaisi, so it's a team virage 5-6, despite the problems for Jude Peters have dropped him all the way back down the field. That's first to seventh. Seventh is Christian Brooks, and he's been looking quick in this phase of the race, Johnny. Don't count him out to make progress. Then we get into what has been a great battle in JS2 R. Steve Paulette had been pulling away, but now that's a gap that comes right down with LR Motorsport. Simone Riccitelli getting another opportunity to have a sniff there. August Turbo had dropped Cindy Goudet, and they've got the 16 Pegasus JS P4 between them. That's third and fourth with those two cars battling. And then beyond that, we've got that four-car battle now between VSF Sports, Florian Tayes, Martin Lackerman, Henri Cruz and Martin Tabaret, and that is VSF Sport, Trajectus, Petrogold, Trajectus. It's the last three of those four that have just had an absolute hammer and tongs battle all the way through. Field being led down the escape road to avoid the recovery, and I guess clean up with an awful lot of gravel likely on the track there. So my guess would be this will be this single lap under safety car, and then we will get, what, 7 minutes? A green flag running, maybe a little less. So 2, possibly 3 laps, depending on exactly where we get the rejoin here. It's not done yet.
Certainly not now that all those gaps have disappeared, and that can be said for JS P4. It can be said for JS2 R as well. Stephen Paulette will have been chuffed with the fact that he checked out to an extent compared to Simone Riccitelli, but as Stephen Paulette pushed a tad too hard on those tyres in order to get the road position and the advantage ahead of Riccitelli. Riccitelli might have a bit more rubber, therefore, at his disposal.
There you go. It is a bit gravelly.
Yes, at Les Combes, the more conventional route through the Les Combes sequence of corners. But also, I think just to have the cars threading their way through the escape road has helped with the recovery of the Jude Peters 27 car. Don't think there was contact just initially there. There's still a cigarette paper between them, but they
both convinced themselves, didn't they, too far into the zone where the braking and steering capabilities were not quite there.
But they've sort of spooked one another,
they did.
really, and the result is that neither car takes the correct route through Les Combes. Safety car, though, is keen to get into the pit lane in order to get the race racing again. So a short safety car phase, about 7 minutes as a restart, and change potentially depending on where the race leader is when the checkered flag is being readied. But a very small gap now for Roman Bakler to judge and to defend compared to the 8 seconds that he had in his back pocket as the safety car was sent out onto track.
Yeah, green flags will greet the field this time through. It's under the control of Roman Berkler. 7 minutes to go in this race. He leads the overall. VSF Sports Steve Paulette leads JS2R. Is it going to stay that way? Keep with us, because the next 7 minutes could be quite exciting.
Roman Bakler, how well has he done on this safety car lap to up the tyre temperature? Is he going to be confident? Well, he's still doing a bit of weaving. Confident at turning at La Source? Probably yes. At Eau Rouge, it might be a different story, as now down the inside goes Perez Cabaya on Bulsa-Kelly, but Bulsa-Kelly will pick off the 12 car on the exit. So briefly, car 12 was into third position, but then they flip around again. The outside-inside trick not quite working for Perez Caballo, but that is showing his intentions with this 7-minute restart. And again, Perez Caballo getting a good run on the American racer Michael Bulsa-Kelly.
33 car of Christian Brooks going alongside the number 1 Virage car, looking to grab 6th position there. Tucks in as well behind Amnal Kabaisi. He's managed to get past the first of the Virage cars. Can't quite manage the second, but a great restart there from Christian Brooks.
Everybody wary of the gravel that is now across the racetrack. Thankfully, it doesn't appear to be on the racing line through the left-hand element of Les Combes, but it does appear to be everywhere through the third bit of that sequence of corners. So there's always the risk of picking up some of those stones in your tyres Let's hope there's not enough of the race still to go for it to generate a puncture, but there's always a bit of a question mark in one's mind. So this was the effort from Perez Caballo down the inside of Michael Bulsikelli to briefly get third position, but Bulsikelli kept his head, knew he'd need to concentrate on the drive out of La Source, and now Bulsikelli is starting to reel in Vincent Boutellier, who cannot, it seems, match the speed of Roman Bakla, who again is checking out. He did exactly this during the last green flag phase of the race, Graham. Got it up to 8 seconds. Well, it's nearly a second once again.
Yeah, it's an impressive restart from the race leader, having had an 8-second gap negated by that latest safety car. Well, he said it's 1 second. He's pulled out over a second in this middle sector. Really impressive stuff. Meantime, the number 83 car, Trajectus Motorsports, Martin Lackerman, he's gone by VSF Sports number 41 of Florian Tailas and is making hay here. He's up in the 5th and chasing Cindy Goudet.
On towards Blanchimont, the most daunting part of the circuit, perhaps, although some would argue that's Eau Rouge, Raidillon. There's a lot of places that you'd sooner want to shut your eyes, and in fact the very sideways moment there from this scrap that we're focusing on in JS2R. Didn't get the drive off the corner, but can the 41 car slow in time? The answer is no. So again, a place change which flips back again once more with Florian Thiele. And Thiele losing ground in the net effect.
There's been dramas as well for Luis Carlos Perez Caballo. He's lost time here, and I think this might be where he did it. He did under braking into the bus stop, spooked by the car ahead. That's allowed Amna Al-Khabaisi and Christian Brooks to make those places up, and they're still battling away for what is now 4th position overall. 4 minutes to go. Side by side in JS2R. 41 car goes back ahead, but massively overcooks it. Will not be allowed to keep that position if he can rejoin ahead of the 83. Yeah. Side by side here, Christian Brooks with Amna Al-Khabaisi. He's going to tough it out. Is he going to make the place? He is. That's 3 places made in 2 laps. The 12 car goes back through as well. Great stuff in the midfield here.
Perez Caballo trying to gather the ground back again that he'd lost, and now being ganged up a little bit upon by the 2 Virage cars. So Amna Al-Khabaisi and the sister Virage car of Dario Cabanillas. And Cabanillas working his way through the left-hander at turn 9 now. So Christian Brooks will lead this little quartet ahead of the 12 car of Perez Caballo, and then the 2 Virage cars in tow. That midfield shake-up in JS2R was fascinating to witness as well. Florian Thiele now ahead of Henri Cruz for Petra Gold. So the young Portuguese racer, number 17, now back to 7th place.
Christian Brooks restarted this race after the last safety car in 8th place. He's now up into 4th. It's been quite the spell. He's pushing on and gapping this group as well. It's not, I don't think, going to have enough time to catch Boutellier. That's his 2.5 seconds the gap. Meantime, still battling away in JS2R. 94 on the 17. There's a recovery drive from Jordan Meyer, I think.
Yeah, it could well be, although Meyer looked a little bit slow through the... No, he's doing okay, but maybe there's an intermittent type problem affecting the number 94 car. 2 more minutes to go. Roman Bakla crossing the line now.
This will be the last lap of the race.
Confirmed as such. 3.7 seconds was the gap. It's now opened up to slightly more than 4 seconds to Vincent Boutellier, who in turn has a 1.3 second buffer on Michael Bulsikelli. Which of those Virage cars almost left the road on the exit of Le Con? That was difficult to tell.
I think that's the 27. I think that's the recovering 27 car of Jude Peters.
Yeah, all right. Well, what would tell us about that? The middle sector, which is actually, yeah, it was slower, significantly slower than a few others. Christoph Weber's not had the cleanest run through that part of the circuit either.
Race leader, and that's the gap that's been built up in just a couple of laps after that safety car. 1.5 minutes on the clock, that will be all she wrote. And Roman Bakla just has to be quick, conservative and safe, and this race is his, and it's been very convincing stuff from the Loire Valley Racing Team racer. Now this car in the hands of Trajectus Motorsport. So it looks like at the moment a 1-2 for them. Michael Bulsikelli doing enough at the moment to fend off a rampant Christian Brooks. to retain into the pits right at the end of the race. Comes the number 17 car. What is that about?
Enrique Cruz. Well, that's the one I wondered whether it was having an intermittent issue on the lap to what turned out to be an in
back
lap.
into the clutches of the 94.
But that car did appear to be slow at one point at Le Fagnes, then it picked up speed, and then it struggled again for pace coming through Blanchimont. Roman Bakla not in such strife, thankfully for him. And after two back-to-back victories, one as the second race at Le Castellet and one at Le Mans on test day Sunday, this should be 3 wins in a row for Roman Bakla, whose chance to close in was one to be grabbed today because of a non-finish for Eco Segre and Maxwell Dodds.
Third place car of Michael Buzzichelli is not going to finish on the podium. We're going to call this one home. It's a 2-minute stop and hold penalty for the pit stop infringement we call, but call him home, Johnny Palmer. Roman Berkler, what a race from him.
Tremendous, because he needed to score well when Segre and Dodds were not, and it's a non-finish for his championship rivals, but he will get a 3rd win on the bounce and at 3 different circuits. So Le Castellet, Le Mans, and now here at Spa, a 4th victory of the season for Roman Bakla. For some reason didn't get the checkered flag according to our timing screen, but has won the race by 6.3 seconds. Now, as far as the JS2Rs are concerned, Stephen Palette in the green and white of VSF Sports takes victory after a really good fight mid-race with Simone Riccitelli, and the LR Motorsport car confirmed now that the Loire Valley Racing Bakla car did indeed receive the checkered flag. It just didn't pop up on the timing screen initially. And August Turbo in JS2R finishing in 3rd. So actually the championship rivals for 2025 are 2nd and 3rd. That means Riccitelli outscores Turbo by 3 points, and a very tight margin opens up a little from 1 point to 4 ahead of tomorrow's race.
Timing adjusts to take account of the penalty, and it is indeed Christian Brooks that finishes 3rd place. And that penalty drops Buzzichelli down to 19th place and out of the top 10 in the points.
Yeah.
It's really, really, what an error.
It seemed like possibly a good idea at the time, but the problem is you've got to remember that you're not pitting within that lap. You complete the lap, you have to slow down for La Source, very slow corner, come out of that corner, and then go into the pit lane. And it was that extra bit which cost them 10, 15 seconds. And it's hugely costly because a 10-15 second outside of the pit window gives you a 2-minute penalty, and the loss is huge when you look at the results sheet.
At the line, by the way, Amnal Kabaisi fending off a challenge from Luis Carlos Perez Caballo to have 4th place. So the best finishing of the Virage cars is the 88, but not on the overall podium. So all sorts of investigations, by the way, still underway. But some of the major ones done. That is the overall result, Johnny.
Loire Valley Racing with a different crew looking after that car this weekend compared to Le Mans, but it's still going just as well as it did in France on 2 separate occasions, Le Castellet and the Le Mans test day support race. So Roman Bakla, 3 wins in a row ahead of Mathis Poulet and Vincent Boutellier. Promoted to 3rd position because of the penalty for car 3 is Christian Brooks in the 33 car that he shares with Chris Preen. Then the Alcubaisi sisters for Team Virage, number 88 finishing in 4th place, and Luis Carlos Perez Caballo, car number 12, finishing in 5th. JS2R is won by Stephen Palette along with his teammate Luca Papin ahead of LR Motorsports' Simone Riccitelli. But it did take a little while for this race to get going, and unfortunately for Matteo Pianazzola, the race kind of ended before it began after a spin as he attempted to get some warmth in the tyres. Just nosed that car into the concrete barrier to driver's right, and there was too much damage on the car for it to continue. Eventually we did get going, the race beginning behind the safety car, so that accounted for the first 5 or 6 minutes. But jostling for position with Vic Stevens, who was chasing down Boutellier at the time. Eco Segre, huge crash for our championship leaders. Maxwell Dodds didn't even get to drive today. Eco Segre walked away from this incident, but we'll get a check at the medical centre. The car in a sorry state, and it remains to be seen whether that can be repaired in time for tomorrow morning's second race of the weekend. Good early fighting as well between the number 3 car of Pietro Ferri and his rival Ruben Hage. More on that car in a second in terms of when it made its pit stop. The number 3 car was outside of the pit window, and eventually the car number 3 given a 2-minute penalty post-race, which rather did for it on the Saturday affair in the Ligiers. Also good fighting, well, perhaps beyond the fighting limit for Cindy Goudet. Stephen Palette, a drag race between he and Simone Riccitelli out of La Source, eventually won by the Palette VSF Sports crew member or team manager of that outfit, and he turned driver this weekend, gets a race win, having only competed once before in the Ligier European Series. Neck and neck into Le Mans. It all went a bit wrong, though, particularly for Jude Peters, who rotated and backed the car into the Le Mans gravel. He couldn't extricate himself, although was eventually towed from the scene there and did reach the finish in the Team Virage car that was started by Vic Stevens and So Well. And again, a nip and tuck moment into the chicane towards the end of the lap for a couple of the JS2Rs, but there was no stopping Roman Bakler despite a late race safety car which stripped him of an 8-second advantage. He quickly built that lead back to Vincent Boutellier for the second time of asking. Bakler, a 3-time winner on the bounce now. Stephen Palette winning in JS2R for VSF. There we go then. That is the first of 2 Ligier European Series races for the weekend. A wettish track, drying throughout, making it a fascinating run, and 1 or 2 split-second decisions needing to be made. Unfortunately, 1 or 2 cars looking very second-hand as well, not least Eco Segre's entry from ANS Motorsport. If that car gets fixed, it'll be Maxwell Dodds to start it bright and early tomorrow morning. Thanks to Graham Goodwin, from Johnny Palmer and Graham. We will see you tomorrow for part 2 of Heat 4 of the Ligier European Series.
place. Deuxième place pour l'équipe Trajectus Motorsport, Mathis Poulet et Vincent Bouteiller. Après un superbe duel. Et puis la victoire, il représente le Loire-Valley Racing opéré par Trajectus Motorsport. C'est Benoît Trélier qui sera le team représentatif d'ailleurs de cette équipe Loire-Valley Racing et un pilote qui remporte sa 4e victoire en 6 courses. Romain Becler, vainqueur. Et on appelle Benoît Trélier également pour représenter donc le triple vainqueur des 24 heures du Mans, devenu le patron de cette équipe Trajectus Motorsport. Mesdames, Mesdemoiselles, Messieurs, en l'honneur de l'équipe Loire-Valley Racing et de son pilote Romain Becler, l'hymne national français, s'il vous plaît, la Marseillaise. Ouais, Marseillaise bien méritée pour Romain Becler et pour l'équipe Trajectus Motorsport. Du coup, même si c'est Loire-Valley Racing, messieurs, vous avez les trophées devant vous, messieurs et mesdames d'ailleurs, vous avez les trophées devant vous. Please pick up your trophy for the pictures all together. The race 1 of the Ligier European Series, the JS P4 classification. Well done. Merci à Bimbendom de nous avoir rejoint aussi, Michelin partenaire de cette Ligier European Series. Il y a du champagne. Champagne, notre champagne, ouais, peut-être pas. On va garder les combinaisons propres pour demain. Quoique, si, allez, on va se laisser tenter. Trajectus Motorsport. Allez, champagne avec Romain Becler, José, Vincent Bouteiller et Matt Poulet de... Bravo Al-Koubaïzi et Hamda Al-Koubaïzi. Bravo, messieurs, rendez-vous demain 9h05 pour le départ de la course 2 de cette Ligier European Series ici sur le circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. On reste avec la catégorie JS P4 et on va accueillir maintenant les vainqueurs du côté de la catégorie Pro-Am 360 Competition Winning Classification. Christopher Preen and Christian Brooks, winners in the JS P4 Pro-Am Classification. Et du côté de la catégorie AM, c'est David Kosanel et Yuki Tanaka. David Kosanel and Yuki Tanaka representing the Pegasus Racing winners in the AM classification. Allez-y, messieurs, pour la remise des trophées, je pense qu'on les a. On va commencer par le Pro-Am et on fera le Am donc évidemment dans la foulée. Well done. 360 competition, Christopher Preen, Christian Brooks. Sorry, I was a bit too early. I was just a bit too early. The winner in the Am, les vainqueurs au Am Pegasus Racing, David Kosanel, Yuki Tanaka, winners in the AM classification in the JS P4. Sorry. Let's go now with the JS2 R classification. On va maintenant passer à la catégorie JS2 R. Troisième marche du podium pour l'équipe 23. Evans Racing, Auguste Turbo. Third place in the JS2 R classification, Auguste Turbo. Second in the provisional ranking and third today in this first race. Second place coming from Italy, the leader in the championship, Simone Riccitelli for the LR Motorsport team. Et la victoire pour l'équipe VSF Sport avec Lucas Papin et Steven Palette. Bravo Steven, bravo Lucas Papin. Et on demande un représentant évidemment aussi de cette équipe VSF Sport. Steven Palette qui aura assuré les 2 casquettes, non pas seulement celle de Michelin, mais aussi celle de team manager et de pilote aujourd'hui, avec Lucas Papin. Et pour toute l'équipe VSF Sport et pour son duo de pilotes, de nouveau la Marseillaise, s'il vous plaît. Bravo, messieurs. Toutes nos félicitations. Congratulations to the VSF Sport team with Lucas Papin and Steven Palette, winners today in the JS2 R classification. Please pick your trophy indeed for the pictures. With a huge smile on your face, you just raced on Spa-Francorchamps and you are on the podium. Avec le sourire évidemment, parce que rouler sur Spa-Francorchamps, ça reste toujours quelque chose évidemment. Monter sur le podium par la suite, tout autant. Bravo messieurs. Bon, je pense qu'on va pas salir les combinaisons demain. On le sait, il y aura une deuxième course et quand ça sent le champagne, ce n'est pas très agréable. Et on va pouvoir passer à la suite avec le classement de la catégorie Pro-Am. So the Pro-Am classification now. Vainqueur en Pro-Am, le Pegasus Racing avec Jordan et Alain Meilleur. Bravo messieurs, Jordan et Alain Meilleur, vainqueur. Et le Pegasus Racing, vainqueur donc de cette catégorie Pro-Am en JS2R. Avec un duo père-fils donc. Ah, quel bonheur de pouvoir faire du sport auto en famille. Et c'est pas les Nickney qui nous diront le contraire évidemment. Bravo messieurs. Et puis on passe au vainqueur de la catégorie AM et on va de nouveau retrouver l'équipe VSF Sport sur la plus haute marche du podium, mais cette fois en AM avec son duo Florian Payet, Tristan Clé, vainqueur en AM. Bravo messieurs, et l'équipe VSF Sport qui réalise le doublé entre le classement général et l'équipe AM. Ah, il faut profiter des journées comme celle-là. Évidemment, bravo Florian, bravo Tristan également. Prenez vos trophées pour la photo et puis si vous le désirez, il y a du champagne devant vous. Ça, ce serait vraiment pas cool Florian, je t'en voudrais à vie. Merci d'être avec nous, on vous donne rendez-vous demain évidemment 9h05 de la Ligier. Peace.